Yeah. Okay, checking levels. How?
Mic check, mic check.
Yeah. Let's see. Starting a little early.
What's our weather forecast for today?
Oh, weather forecast. I didn't look it up, but right now it's a little overcast. Hopefully we're hoping for rain in the afternoon, but not rain right now. That would be great.
Nice balmy breezes.
Nice balmy breezes. What are you planning on doing after your interview today?
After my interview today, I'm going to be right across the way here in our urban spice garden. I'm going to be planting some things and then pulling out some weeds and doing a little herb harvesting. One of my wife's friends actually is interested in the fish mint that we have in there.
Fish mint.
Fish mint. It's not a piperaceae, it's a saruraceae, which means lizard's tail. Very close to pipers, which would be like your black peppers, things like that.
Okay.
And it has these really aromatic leaves that smell like fish. So in Southeast Asia, it's used a lot in cooking. So
Okay.
yeah.
That's awesome. Thanks for joining us. We are starting a little bit early so that we can test levels of sound and see what the lighting's like and everything like that. So we'll get started with our interview and introduce Jesse right at 10 o'clock. So we've got about 4 minutes. So also, if you have anything to think about or any questions that you want to ask, you feel free to post those too. We have Jenna on the sidelines ready to prompt us with any questions that you might have for Jesse. Again, my name is Hadley. I'm the education specialist over here at Lion Arboretum. Jesse is our research support for grounds and collections, and we'll get into some questions that we have for him closer to 10. So we have about 3 minutes up until then, but we're just talking about what we're going to do with the rest of our day here at the Arboretum after this interview concludes. So Jesse's going to be working on our Spice Hill, which is right across the way. There's got a complete revamp. So just in case you didn't know, we are still working up at Lion Arboretum. We're working really hard to bring some really great exhibits to you guys. There's going to be some eye-catching changes when you get back, at least for Spice Hill and for our Memorial Garden, right? And of course, Grounds has been working really, really hard. It's quite easy to social distance when you have about 200 acres to work on, right?
Yep, this is true. This is true. We could spread out. We could get more than 6 feet.
You can work an entirely different section if you want to.
Very true. Very true. And I feel extremely lucky that we are still able to come up to work. It's nice to get outside and see other people. And more importantly, take care of the plants, because the plants don't stop growing, right? So good for us to be their stewards.
Yeah, if we were completely shut down, I can just only imagine the overgrowth that would happen, right?
Stuff of nightmares, Hadley, stuff of nightmares.
That would be great. Oh, that would be awful. I mean, have an inkling of how this interview is going to go. Yes!
You're an agent of chaos.
Just a little bit. So that was really, that plant I had never heard of. So with fish mint?
Fish mint.
Good God, okay.
Yeah.
And I thought I was an aficionado of Asian cooking, but Asian cuisine, guess not.
I think it might be something used in stews or with kind of like the equivalent of like a beef tartare, like a raw meat wrapped in a leaf and then you eat it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. You're really great.
Yep.
Cool.
I've been told it's an acquired taste like durian though, so.
Okay.
Might be good the first time you try it, might not be good the first time you try it.
That's with most things, I think, until you figure out what your palate is like. Been growing some great turnips in our children's garden, and I was really hoping to like turnips, and
not so much.
Don't think so. I've tried roasting, tried a lot of things, looking a lot of. I'll take recipe suggestions too.
Yeah, post your turnip recipes below.
Post your turnip recipes below. Oh my gosh. Okay, so we are counting down. Probably almost ready to go. We can probably go ahead and get started too. So again, my name is Hadley Anderson. I'm the education specialist here at Lion Arboretum. With me today is Jesse Adams. He's our research support for our grounds and collections department. He's got a master's degree from UH Manoa, specializing in biogeography and plant systematics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So biogeography is where plants are located and kind of how they migrate and disperse across the globe. So It's really interesting. We don't normally think of plants moving, right? Because they don't have legs and they don't walk around. But they do trick birds and other things into dispersing their seeds.
Humans. Yeah.
Humans. Yep.
Oh, yeah. Sandbirds, that happens.
Yeah, your dog when you take him out for a walk, for sure.
Dispersing seeds. Yep.
And then systematics is kind of like 23andMe, but for plants. So we're seeing how certain plants are related or how they're different. The importance of this is, like if we're looking for pharmaceuticals, 1 out of every 4 pharmaceutical drugs is derived from a plant. So say we find something that's very good against COVID or other viruses. We want to look at other closely related plants. They might have the same properties.
Or something that's more easily accessible to the human body or something like that.
Right.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. That's really cool. So tell us a little bit about grounds and collections and your role with our grounds and collections department.
Gotcha. So grounds and collections is kind of like Lion King. Everything that the sun touches up here is under our control. But really, it's all 200 acres. We're managing it to remove invasive species, to take care of the accessions that we have, and just to put in nice paths and make sure that those are open, put in interpretive signage so that when you guys are able to come up, you can fully appreciate the Arboretum, not only for the aesthetic qualities, but also learn something about plants too. We also facilitate research with people from UH or other universities and institutions. We can provide them with leaf material to extract DNA to do the systematics like I do, or if they're doing more of an ecological-based experiment, provide them areas to set their plots up where they can do their observations, things like that.
So how do you help with your research support role? Research
support? So I do a wide variety of things, which is really cool. I like the variety in my job. It's one of the highlights of this. It's a hybrid position, so I'm half indoors, half outdoors. I do plant records, so just tracking all of our accessions, making sure the nomenclature checks out, recording phenology, which is when things are fruiting or flowering. This is becoming important now because of climate change. Lots of things are flowering and fruiting sooner than they did in the past. Sometimes they might skip a season, so we can provide some really good baseline data for that. We have lots of economically important crops up here, so we can provide that to the university and other researchers. Also, I work in certain sections like urban spice, doing planting and planning, kind of garden layout, landscape design, things like that. Then I have some volunteers that I work with, are huihana lei makers, getting their lei gardens set up so they can collect things and make lei. And then also working with some student volunteers to give them things to put on their resumes for career building and whatnot.
Excellent. Do you have a favorite part of your job, or is it too many to decide?
I mean, it's a cop-out, but too many to decide. I like it all. It's good.
That's awesome. Great. So, okay, we prefaced your background a little bit, but you didn't originally start in botany or plants.
No. I came over from the dark side. I'm a zoologist by training from undergrad, and also was really interested in archaeology, which in America is included in anthropology. And kind of bridging those two fields, so looking at how ancient peoples were harvesting fish, especially here in Hawaii. We have this huge number of fish hooks, different styles. It's very similar to pottery in the Southwest. And we're trying to determine if, like pottery in the Southwest, is it a stylistic, artistic expression, or are these functional? Smaller hooks might be better for reef environments. Your larger hooks are for your fish that are in deeper pelagic waters.
Oh, you can see the difference in the fish hooks at Bishop Museum too, like with the very, very tiny ones and the really, really large ones for like sharks, and then like how they differentiate across the Pacific too. Very similar styles and things like that.
Yeah.
Right. Cool. That's really awesome. But you came over from that dark side. What got you into going into plants after working with archaeology and zoology?
So when I was into, and I still am into Native Hawaiian fishing techniques, I did a lot of research on hola, H-O-L-A, which is using fish poison plants. So we were using Akia, which is your Wickstromia, and Auhuhu, which is Tephrosia, and kind of experimenting with, how were Hawaiians using these? Are they effective or not? And I guess to my everlasting shame, I went out and bought some feeder fish at the aquarium and tested them out. But it's interesting. It's got me into plants. After that, I got a job at National Tropical Botanical Garden, and working with Dave Lawrence up there, really got into plants and plant ID and systematics and whatnot, and decided that that was the route that I wanted to go. I've always been into systematics and kind of classifying things, knowing how to ID things. So plants also present a challenge of they're very complicated genetically compared to animals. Things like plants could have multiple copies of chromosomes, kind of, which in animals would be like Down syndrome. So it's interesting. It doesn't affect plants. And, you know, why do we have multiple chromosomes? What's going on with that?
Is that ongoing research?
Yeah, it's ongoing research, and nobody really knows. So hopefully, moving forward with like CRISPR and other technologies like that, we can kind of get out what's going on.
Well, that's awesome. So part of it is IDing plants. And one of the things we want to talk about is kind of what's blooming here at the Arboretum.
Right.
So also, really quickly, we did have a question that came in beforehand that was just, what are some of the best ways to identify plants?
Excellent question. So if you do need plants ID'd, you know, feel free to email us, let us know, we can work on that for you. But when you do send in pictures, we gotta have the flowers and the leaves, not one or the other. It's a combination of those characters with importance placed on flowers and fruit. So yeah, when you send us those things, and make sure to send us pictures of flowers and fruit too.
Because you can get a very generalized idea of what the plant group that it belongs to is in, but to get down to the nitty-gritty of what genus and species, you really need some more specificity, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So.
Because the specialization in plants comes from the pollinators that interact with them. So that's going to dictate their flower shape, and then also how they're dispersed dictates their fruit shape. Whereas leaves, there's only so many types of leaves that you can have. You know, they all work the same with photosynthesis, so you don't want to, plants aren't trying to reinvent the wheel all the time. They're going to go with what works, right?
Okay, yeah. For sure, that makes sense. Okay, do you want to get into
what's blooming?
Some of the plants that you brought? Okay.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So first off, we have a beautiful tree that when we are open, it's at the end of the parking lot. This is Amherstia nobilis, or Pride of Burma. These are what the flowers look like. Nice pendant inflorescence, and has this pinnate leaf. It's a fabaceae. It's in the bean family. And fun fact, it's named after Lady Amherst, who was a botanist in India. And she also has a pheasant named after her that's also quite colorful, so check it out. But yeah,
Can I
really neat plant.
go in a little bit closer with the beautiful blue?
Please,
Yeah,
please.
let's look at that one.
You can see that right there. Really, really gorgeous. And you can see how the bud is closed. But Jenna was describing it as looking like a flamingo that had gone into flower. All right. And then this one.
Okay. And then we have our Alphalandra sinclairi. So this is really cool. It's Acanthaceae. This guy's from South America, anywhere Panama to Ecuador. So really beautiful. Has these bracts here that are nice and orange, and then these great kind of fuchsia, pink, purple flowers.
Some of my favorite colors for sure at the Arbor. There we go.
We're back.
We're back. There we go. This beautiful orange and fuchsia. Awesome. And unfortunately, we are not open yet. So that's why we would like to bring you some of the things that are blooming, even though we are not allowing visitors at this time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But hopefully, maybe at the end of May, we'll be talking about if people can come back up and in what capacity that will, what that will look like. There's a lot of talks, and we've got a month to talk about it. So we'll see where we end up there. Do you have any book recommendations for beginning gardeners to get started with plant identification?
Totally. So you're going to look for a book by Harris and Harris. I believe it's called Plant Identification Terminology. That's really good because we have all these specialized terms that we use in botany. So you don't need to memorize them. That's why you have that book. You just boom, look it up. And for general plant ID, to learn your families, which is really important, you're going to look for a book called Plant Systematics by this guy Judd, J-U-D-D. at all. He's got multiple editions out, just get the newest edition. But it's going to go into using that terminology, IDing plants and whatnot.
And don't get frustrated if you're trying to ID plants and it has several different names, because taxonomists are constantly reclassifying things, right?
Right. So all the old-time taxonomy was based on morphology, what we could see, and now with molecular tools, DNA sequencing, a lot of that's changing, and it's changing rapidly.
That's awesome. Great. Any other questions from the audience? Jenna, did anybody? No? Everybody's doing great? Okay, let's see what we have here. For the everyday gardener, does it make any difference whether a plant is a monocot or a dicot? So I would start off with what's a monocot and what's a dicot.
Very good. So a monocot is going to have one cotyledon or seed leaf. So when it sprouts, it's just going to have one leaf that comes out. A dicot, die for two, it's going to have two. There's some differences with their vasculature and how they're kind of put together as an organism. But in terms of what you put in your garden, it's not really that important. The only time it might apply is for certain herbicides, because certain herbicides are effective against dicots and not monocots. But interesting.
Yeah, right. Well, I'm sure that deals with the vascular part of it, right? And how it takes in nutrients and pesticide at that point.
But what you really want to pay attention with when you're putting plants in your garden is light levels, drainage, and nutrient requirements, right? Because you don't want to put a bunch of shade-tolerant plants in high sun and vice versa, because they're not going to survive. So you really want to pay attention to that ecology.
Okay.
It's cutting out a bit.
Oh, it's cutting out a bit. Okay, so we're at time right now. I want to thank everybody for joining us. Jesse, thank you for coming down and spending part of your day. Hopefully we can do another interview with Jesse. We'll have more questions. We'll talk about another couple of plants that are blooming. We'll see. And I wanted to thank you all for joining us for this live webcast. And then also just thanks for hanging out with us with all of our technical difficulties. We're trying our best with our Wi-Fi and with all of the technology that we have today. So hopefully we've improved a little bit. If you have any feedback, feel free to send that. If you have any questions, plant IDs, please send that in. We're at educationlyonarboretum, all one word, at gmail.com. Feel free to send in your photos as well. We miss you guys at the garden, and hopefully we'll be able to see you all again soon. Hoo-hoo.
Yep, stay safe, guys.